What's up, guys? How are you? Good morning, and how is everyone? It is Friday morning for me. I hope it's the same for you, and that everyone is doing okay and been blessed. So far, so good. I'm having a decent morning, so I decided let me do a quick video and talk about some of the stuff going on in gaming. A lot of different situations have shown up, and of course, we got false narratives, new narratives, misinformation, crazy talk. It is what it is, especially when it comes to Xbox. This is your boy Hebot coming at you with another quick video. So let's start off. So I guess it was true that the sales for Horizon Zero Dawn really haven't met up to the standards or to what they wanted or expected in comparison to the original game. Which, to be honest, doesn't surprise me, because I said this way back when they had announced the sequel. I said the game will not sell better than the first one. And a lot of people were like, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean? You're crazy. It don't make no sense. People loved it. It sold 5.7 million units. And then lifetime, obviously with diminished returns at $20 and $30 and $40, it sold about, what was it, 9-10 million, something like that, according to their numbers. Which I said that was because it was, obviously, when they reduced the price significantly. And I said the game's not going to sell because the first game was the first time that Guerrilla Games did something new and different since Killzone. So people were curious. It looked unique. It looked fun. The worlds looked really nice and vast and very beautiful looking. But then when you played the game, I said, you've realized that the game is a really slow burn. It's a very boring game. Some people don't find it boring because they like doing all that, farming and looking around and slow pacing themselves and having, a story cutscene like every hour or so just to discover the rest of the story in the game. And some people just really don't. Me, I like fast-paced games. I don't like slow-paced games. They just too, I like games that keep you paced and that keep you interested with the gameplay and that you're having a good time while doing it. And I predicted this. I said this in one of the podcasts that we did. I don't remember if it was in Alpha or Exile. And I said, clear as day, I said that the game, the sequel, will not do as well. Now, of course, they only talked about the UK numbers. I don't think they've mentioned anything with the US numbers. But we all know if Sony, would have done well over here, sales-wise, right? They would have immediately reported it because that's what they do. They never hold back. When something does well for them, they tend to usually make sure that they mention it because it looks good for them and their perception, and to continue to have them in conversation that that they're doing well, right? So it's unfortunate because obviously Guerrilla Games put their effort into making a sequel, trying to make it the best they could, or worked hard on it. So I'm not really celebrating the fact that it didn't sell well. I'm just kind of bringing to the attention that I had predicted that it wouldn't, because the first game was not as good as people always make it out to be. And in a lot of cases, they over-exaggerate how good the game really is or really was. So, I guess Elden Ring did play a factor as well. But again, Elden Ring is like I tell people, you know, like I hear some people like TK9 call the checklist gamer, right? Which I said this way back when games like Witcher 3 came out and did phenomenally well, even though The Witcher 2 nobody even bothered to play on 360. But that's because, again, at the time, it was the new hotness. There wasn't really nothing out, so people were thirsty. They were thirsty for a new game. And Witcher 3 fit the bill at that time. And it came out to be a good game as well. So it worked in its favor. But at the time, a lot of people bought it just because it was the popular thing. So the same thing happened with Elden Ring, right? But again, with Elden Ring, a lot of those people that bought it either haven't touched it again or returned the game because it's not their, cup of tea. So it still stands and still will stand as a type of genre that is still niche, to say the least. So another thing we're talking about now is the false narrative that everybody's bringing up from Windows Central with people like Jeff Grubb or Jeff Gordon and fucking Gamer Bowl and all those type of sites talking about all these Xbox games that are in trouble. State of Decay is in trouble. Perfect Dark is in trouble. Fable is in trouble. The Halo Infinite is in trouble. All these games now are in so big time trouble because they lost people and they're still in pre-production because of this or because that person left or because now we have somebody else coming in. Look, and again, the funny thing is that this is something that's very common in the industry. It's funny how a lot of people don't ever bring up and mention that when they were doing games like God of War, there was a point where they brought in like 12 different developer studios to come in and help them with the finalization of the game to try to get the game done and meet the quota to bring the game out in time, just like they did with The Last of Us 2, which people act like they didn't see that or like they were blinded to the situation. Like, what are you talking about? They didn't do that with those games. Are you crazy? Are you bugging, Ebot? Which they did. And then, there's tweets out there that are still in the interwebs, which the interweb is, you can't hide anything that you've done. And you look it up and they're there, right? To show that this is true, that this is what happened. So, it's a process. It's a process. Especially when you know that the reality of, let's say, for example, in the situation of Fable, they said clear as day that Playground Games seems to be having trouble with the RPG element aspect of making the game. Which makes sense because they've really never done an RPG. But the beautiful thing is that, and the wonderful thing is that, Microsoft has a lot of good RPG developers that they own under their wing, under the Microsoft division. Like Obsidian, for example, or people from Bethesda. A lot of developers that can come right over and help Playground Games, for example, to get the hands where they need to be for the RPG elements of Fable. And they have the money, so it's not like they can't put in more money to get more people to work on the game. They absolutely can. They can hire whoever they need to get the game on a roll or in a better position, right? Or for example, how they don't talk about how the people from, let's say, Ninja Theory came out and said that the game is in a super wonderful place where they're very far in production and way ahead of what they wanted to achieve and scheduled for the game, which was a positive, information based off the game of what they're doing in production. And then people acted like they didn't hear that part, right? Like that didn't exist, like that wasn't talked about. But they want to talk about other studios being in trouble and that the projects are in trouble, yet this hasn't been confirmed by no kind of people and source from Xbox or the developers themselves. They're just talking with no real source. They're using people like Jeff Grubb, for example, the so-called insider, which is not really an insider, just because you know someone that talks to people at Microsoft, and they'll say something like, oh yeah, I heard this, I heard that, like in the case of Tim Dog. Tim Dog talks to a lot of the guys like Phil and Aaron, and he knows them. So he hears certain things. That doesn't mean he knows all the information, absolutely accurate or exactly how it's going down. And let's say he can be on Dealer's podcast and speak about something, but that doesn't mean that that's exactly what it is, right? It's just that he heard something. These dudes try to act like they know for a fact. I got a real insider when they don't. They're not insiders. It's just like everybody thinks that their business ethic or that their business entrepreneur, business techs that run Fortune 500 companies and know how you run a business and how they do business. They always want to talk about how this is good for gaming or this is bad, and they don't have no clue. But they still have something to say, right? So we have that element and aspect. So people, these games and development are of a lot higher quality and caliber. A lot of these studios are also new, like The Initiative, or new at doing something like Playground Games. So again, it's not something that we should be worrying about. That games could take a little longer to come out, absolutely. It happens. It is what it is, right? But it's not something that we should be taking as, as it is. That's absolutely what it is, instead of taking it with a grain of salt, because a lot of it is just ramblings and rumors and not really validated in any way, shape, or form. And what we're doing in this case of continuing to talk about it or spreading it around is creating more harm and doing more harm than good. Because concerns about something that you care about doesn't always necessarily mean that you speak about it, about things that are being said in a negative way, especially if you don't really know the real scoop or what's really going on. You can just talk about it and guess, well, maybe this or maybe that, but that's about it. We're creating more harm than actual good. And then you're getting all this fake concern from people that never even gave a crap about any of these developers, like, let's say, Undead Lab with State of Decay. Because they said, oh yeah, this guy left, he's coming back. But then the guy said themselves and made a statement that they've been working on the game and that, yes, everything's fine, and then they're trying to achieve new things. Because another thing that's playing a factor is a lot of these games are being upgraded, right? Or migrated to rework and run on Unreal Engine 5, which was still not finalized until just recently, a couple of days ago. And you saw that, the Unreal Engine 5 is now made available to everyone and all the people in the industry. So we'll segue into that. And that's another thing, that now the Unreal Engine 5, all those beautiful demos they showed were all garbage now. They weren't quality. But when you look back And when the ponies are talking about, when they showed the demo for the PS5 initially, with the girl that was flying in the air through the desert land, oh my God, it's the greatest thing. Xbox can get destroyed. It's the power of the SSD. No Xbox game is gonna achieve this and that and this, right? And immediately, it was garbage. It was gonna destroy Xbox, right? Now we're getting real full-blown tech demos that are much more to the actual quality that they can achieve with this engine, and it looks absolutely stunning. From the demo from the Coalition to the demos that they showed of the environments, of the open world, of the high caliber and quality that they can achieve, which looks absolutely stunning, to when Ninja Theory showed off the gameplay or in-game demo of Hellblade during the awards, and a lot of people said that it was bullcrap, right? We gotta go to the bank. And then I was like, oh yeah? So now it's bullcrap because Ninja Theory actually showed something. So you go back and you remember, like I said, when they showed the demo with the girl flying in the middle of the desert land, and it was an Unreal Engine tech demo for PS5, and then the fact that Sony had bought, I think, was 2% of shares in Epic, everybody was like, oh, it's going to destroy Xbox. Xbox can't do this. But now that they actually showed the real finalized product of what Unreal Engine 5 can achieve, now you see all these people trying to downplay it and act like it's not good, or it looks so, that it's not that great. But, it's to be expected with the mentality of PlayStation fanboys, which is absolutely stupid and ignorant, because they're going to benefit from the Unreal Engine 5 just as much as anybody else on Xbox when they do games like Hellblade and like the next Gears. It's to benefit us, the gamers, which makes no goddamn sense. But again, that's that PlayStation fanboy mentality. And when I say fanboy, it's the extremists, the ones that they take any little thing and try to make it into a bigger situation just to play positive or to give the upper hand to their console, right? That's what I mean when I say the fanboy, because there's a lot of fanboys that are excited to see what it's going to be able to achieve on PlayStation 5, right? And genuinely, they don't really care about the competition of what's being done on another platform per se, right? So we have that narrative going on. So that shit is pretty much comedy. So the other narrative that I wanted to talk about is this whole situation that they're trying to push now with the PlayStation Premium Plus, subscription that they're doing, Spartacus Premium or whatever it's called, trying to say that it's going to be a better value because it has 700 plus games. Which the reality of that is that majority of those games are shovelware and old games from PS2, right, and PS3 that you'll be able to stream, but they don't realize that those games, we have them also available, a lot of them, on Xbox via free backwards compat. So they may not be necessarily in Game Pass, right, but they're still available to us to play on Xbox via gamepad, right? Like via backwards compat, that program, right? Which means that we still have those games that we can play since from the OG all the way to 360 and obviously the Xbox One generation, right? And no one's trying to clarify that. No one's trying to, point that out. And I'm like, are you guys just playing the dumb role, or you just don't realize that? Because when you go into the PSN now, they got a lot of games. For example, like let's say you'll see like Dark Void, right? Dark Void is in there. Dark Void is not in Game Pass, but we can play Dark Void on the Xbox One. You just pop in the disc or download the digital game because it's back compat. It's been back compat. And that's one of the games I can think off the top of my head. Now, what is pretty cool, even though it's streaming, but it's still cool that you can do it, is you got games like the Zachary 0 and House of the Dead 4, which were only and still attached to PS3, but you can play them now via PS5 or PS4 through that service, even though it is streaming, because they're PS3 games. You see what I'm trying to say? That's also pretty cool, right? But it'd be nicer if it was, on a server, but you can still access them and not necessarily need your PS3. But it's the same logic of what I'm trying to say, that they're trying to point out that it has more games, when the reality is, when you look at Microsoft with their back compat games, whatever's on Game Pass, whatever's on EA Access, that you can get all in one place with the Xbox, it's the same amount, if not more, because there was a lot more games available with 360 and OG once you were able to play them with back compat for free on the Xbox console. It's not under a paywall. You don't have to pay to play them. You don't have to pay to access them. The same way we don't pay for demos. We get our demos for free. And when we play these games on Game Pass, as we all know, it's the full game. We play the whole entire game to our leisure, however we choose to play it, right? And if we like the game, we don't have to worry about, did we spend our money unwisely on a game that perhaps maybe we wouldn't like if we bought it flat out for $70 or $60 day and day, like MLB The Show. We can play it. We don't have to worry about if we're going to like it or not. And if we do like it, we can buy it. And if you buy it digitally to the store, you'll get a 20% discount right off the hip anyway, you see? Plus the cloud saving. We don't pay for cloud saving. It's not under the paywall, which is very important, especially when you're transferring over all of them, those saves from all those games. In our case, it's almost impossible in my household because we have over 1,500 digital games. So if we wanted to save all those games and we didn't have the accessibility of the cloud, and we had to put it, let's say, in a thumb drive, the way that you have to with PlayStation, if you don't have the PSN Now, for example, it'd be impossible because it's too many thumb. Well, we need too many thumb drives just to put all the saves in there, right? Individually to save all our games. So it's a very good convenience that goes a long way, and people don't realize how big of a deal it is until you don't have access to it, right? And also the fact that people, you guys are paying $3 more, right, monthly for the premium package on top of that, with no day and date exclusives of your first party from the indie space or third party, which on Xbox, when you get it through Game Pass, you're getting new indie games day and date, exclusives day and date, and third party developers, right? Third party developed games day and date that even launched here, like we did with Bad for Blood, like we did with things like Dragon's Quest Heroes, the one that came out not too long ago, Dark Alliance, the Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, Outriders earlier in the year, and MLB, for example, the show. So it's not even comparable. The two are not even on the same bracket. Is it something that is a good option maybe for PlayStation owners and fans? Yeah, it is, because it's better than nothing, but it's nowhere near. This is the testing ground for Sony to see how it does. But I guarantee you, once they start doing other deals like they did with Shadow Warriors 3, where it came out day and date when you had PSN Plus, right? And it starts giving more value to the fan base or to the people, I guarantee you that all of that will change. You'll see the numbers start going up. You'll see the what you call the initial numbers, are going to start to go up. You're going to see the subscription base go up, but they have to give a reason and entice their customers to want to subscribe, because as it is and stands right now, it's really kind of like a slap in the face, like, here, take it or leave it. If you like it, good. If you don't, oh well, too bad. That's the kind of approach and mentality and the way that it's coming off from Sony, which again comes off as arrogant, which is nothing new with them, because this has been their pattern behavior since the PlayStation's inception with PS1. So, the comparison is comical. You guys got to stop. Game Pass has changed everything, because again, once you get the games on Game Pass and Microsoft pays for these games to be on the service or service day one, like Plague Tales, the sequel, Requiem, that's going to give people the ability, and the game the ability, to have more engagement the first day it comes out, versus people buying it in the store day and date because they don't know if the game will be worth their $60 or $70. When they play it on Game Pass, you play it with the $15 charge, and that's it. And you're like, you check it out and you realize, was this worth my time or was this not worth my time? And that is the biggest difference. You see? So this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It makes risk-free decisions for all gamers. And even casuals. So casuals that don't normally play all types of games because they don't care. They just play, let's say, a Fortnite or a Call of Duty. Even they'll be enticed to want to try out newer games from different genres. And if they like it, the numbers show, based on what Phil and based on what the young lady spoke about just recently in the GDC show that they had, right? Or Sarah Bond, right? That 40% of players are buying more games. And you see Microsoft shelled out $2.6 billion to put games on Game Pass. And this is games that have to do with third party and the indie space as well. So it makes money and it makes sense. They have the capital to make these types of decisions because they didn't just build this structure in Game Pass overnight. It's been a couple of years, and before they even brought it out, they've been working and planning and figuring these things out. They had that structure and liberty because of their pockets and because they've been working on it for a while. That is why it makes sense, and Sony has a lot of catching up to do, and even Nintendo to work in their favor as well. Although Nintendo exclusives tend to sell 9 or 10 million units, 12 million units day one, but that's only their exclusives, their Marios, their Zeldas, and that, it doesn't apply obviously for Metroid or Kid Icarus. Not all of their IPs like Splatoon do those type of numbers. Just the regular usual suspects, like the Smash Brothers, the Mario Karts, the Pokemons, those types of titles. But they only make so many and so much of those titles during their generation that they can't always rely on just those. That's why Nintendo stays stuck on how much they're worth in value. The one thing that's making them the most money now is the Switch. You see? So I'm going to segue to the last topic in my head that I wanted to talk about, and that's the narrative of how dare you, Microsoft, undercut and do a dirty move towards PlayStation. You guys, what are you talking about, Heba? Well, I'm talking about how it came out, and again, it's a rumor, but it kind of makes sense, that Microsoft paid and made a deal to the manufacturing companies to produce or prioritize producing more chipsets to create more Xbox One X's and Series S's since the holidays, or right before the holidays. And listen, it makes sense. Microsoft is trying to keep the perception and the positive outlook that they have to this point with Xbox X, Xbox Series X. They want to continue it. So it would make sense that for the holiday season, they know it's the most traffic, that they would pay off extra money to incentivize these manufacturers to manufacture more chipsets. But this is called business. There's not Microsoft paying for a timed exclusive for a game, or for a DLC to be timed exclusive for 2 years or 3 years like they did so far with Final Fantasy. You know, it's not something like that. It's basically them trying to get more hardware in the hands of people that are still yearning and thirsting for a new next generation console. And as you see, a lot of those numbers are Series S's, because it's a cheap entry to next gen. And most people, let's be real, unless you're hardcore, we're cheap bastards. We want more for less money, right? Unless you're a PlayStation fan and you say that paying $70 is fantastic, even though a game like Bugsnax should only be $30 or $20, right? So there's that. But the point of the matter is, if this, again, this is just a rumor, but if it has some type of validity to it, it makes sense, because Microsoft wants to stay ahead of the game this generation. They don't want to fall back and start to lose like they did with the Xbox One. They want to get this perception and keep it going. So to get more consoles and make them readily available makes sense, because people are still hyped, people are still yearning. They're going to want to get this, so they're going to run out, and if they don't see a PS5, even though that may be their first choice, they'll be like, you know what? I'm going to get a Series X and see how it is. Plus, they got Game Pass. Word, I'm going to get one. And that's exactly how it seems to be playing out. And it's not Microsoft's fault that PlayStation doesn't have money to pay off the manufacturers to prioritize PS5s. That's not their fault. As a matter of fact, what did Sony announce? We're going to increase the production value or the production of PS4s and PS4 Pros when that's last generation. Now, my theory is because it's more affordable and it's the easier way for them to do it, because it's less money out of their pocket and it doesn't really hurt them as much. And they can still get these games that are new, like GT7, like Horizon, the Forbidden West, in gamers' hands, because they're still cross-generation games. They're not just PS5. Now, if they were just going to be PS5 games, then that's a different story. I would think that the narrative would be, and what would make logical business sense, let's push out as many PS5 as possible. Let's prioritize. Let's stop making all these PS4s. Let's stop making cross-gen and all this other stuff. But they can't, because this helps them financially. It doesn't matter to them if you're playing the game that's new on a PS4 or on a PS5. That doesn't matter to them. What matters to them is that people buy the game, they make money, and that they're going to play the new stuff that's coming out. Especially since they still have Forspoken and God of War 2 from the new reboot coming out this year, quote unquote. So from a business standpoint, that makes sense that that's what they would do. But also it's because that's probably what makes easier sense for them in their pockets. We'll manufacture PS4s and then look into making more PS5s later on next year, because by that point the chipset will be cheaper to produce, because it's already been out for 2 years, cheaper to manufacture, and it'll be easier on their wallet. You see what I'm saying? So this is not hate towards what they're doing. It just makes sense logically and financially based on their true stature. Remember, Microsoft is $1 trillion company, almost $2 trillion. Sony is nowhere near that. They're still in the 47 billion, and that's with all of their assets together, or the 70 billion. That means with their movie, electronic division, and their PlayStation division. All three of them in one. And they're only worth about 43 or 73 billion, something like that altogether. Right? Because I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but I think that's what it is. So again, you can't do the comparison. And for people to say this narrative, oh, Microsoft, how dare you? No, how dare you not complain when they make these stupid time exclusivities like they did with Final Fantasy Remake 7 that's going on 3 years and the game's still not out on Xbox. Really? They didn't pay for the development or publishing of the game. It was just a timed exclusive when it first came out. The box said a year exclusive when you first bought the game. And it's been almost 3 years, or going on to 3 years or 2.5 years, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments below. So again, this is also an ignorant narrative. Microsoft has the money. They want to stay positive. They want to stay on top because no business wants to be number 2. No business. That's a lie. Every business wants to be number 1. And if they want to stay on number 1 in the sales because they've been able to win at least 2 to 3 months, this makes sense. It makes sense. You can't blame them. You can't get mad at them. You can't hate on them. They did the right decision. I don't blame them. It's right. And it's good because more Xbox consoles will be out in the wild. It's a cheaper option instead of people going out and buying expensive PCs or building them, or even the Series X that's more expensive as well. But this applies to Series X because that's why you've been seeing them as well. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the gaming community, for the industry, because it means that the gaming industry is still healthy. People are still buying consoles and people still want to buy consoles. So, all right, guys, I've talked enough. It's been cool. You know, be blessed this weekend. Let me know what you think down in the comments below with what my thoughts on these gaming topics are. If you agree, if you disagree, no trolling because I don't have time to waste. But I know it's going to happen anyway. And, you know, love you guys. Stay in good health. Give me a thumbs up. If you like the video, give me a thumbs down. If you didn't like the video, share it with someone you think might like the video. If you're new to the channel, thank you for stopping by. If you like what I'm doing and actually subscribe, thank you so much. It means the world to me because I know you didn't have to. But just remember, if you did, I consider you now part of my family. As always, you can find me on social media on Instagram under C_respect, on Twitter under @MostHistorian with a capital M and a capital H, everything else lowercase, all one word. You can also find me on Xbox Live and Nintendo Switch under Hebot 8 and on the PSN network under alffellfromsky. All one word, all lowercase. As always, I'll see you guys more than likely tomorrow on the Alpha with my brother Sega Man. Big shout outs to him. In the next week or so with the Exile with my brother E-Rock. Big shout outs to my brother 100. He's been doing a lot of great work. Go check him out with my brothers at the intromediagaming.com with the Xbox Day 1 podcast. And also, maybe I'll do We Got Next sometime soon. I've just been really busy, but now my schedule will be a little bit more flexible. Coming up soon with the summertime, hopefully I'll be able to get some more of those podcasts out and content where I can host and do it at my leisure. Plus, my brother Unlimited, go check him out. He did a good video just recently, dropping a lot of wild gameplay, and with his Unlimited Truth podcast as well. Love you guys. See you in the next one. Peace. Be blessed. Bye-bye.